Hello and welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Nelson Liu. The demise of local community television has been a long and forgotten story, with Perth's only free-to-air community television station, West TV, being pulled off the air back in February. For many people in the community broadcasting sector, the struggle story is old news, but we can exclusively reveal tonight that a consortium was offered to take over the station with a six-figure sum 2 weeks before the station folded. We take a look at what the shutdown means for local production and young people. Please note this story was filmed before the coronavirus measures took place.
We are well aware that they were in trouble for some time. It's a crying shame.
It's the fall of community television broadcasting in WA as we know it. West TV closing its doors for the final time.
Community television, unfortunately, yes, it's all over.
WA's community television station stopped broadcasting at the start of this year, putting an end to its domestic programming. The decision has ended the station's local productions, with consequences for WA's TV industry.
It's not that easy to say what was going on the last month or two, because it's not happened in 1 or 2 months. It's happened over 5 years.
The origins of West TV, also known as WTV, began in 2010, taking over from Access 31, focusing on local programming and training. But turmoil began in 2014 when the federal government made a decision to end licensing for community television stations around the country in December the next year. Former WTV General Manager Tibor Mazzaros says it was difficult for the station to go forward.
Malcolm Turnbull, then Communication Minister, decided to get rid of community television in Australia and force community television in all the 5 capital cities onto online only. You still need to pay the rent, you need to pay the electricity, you need to pay for the transmission, so on and so forth. So you need to have an income for the budget. And we lost so much of the income in the past 5 years.
In an instant, its opportunities to create and broadcast local content were gone, and chances for young industry hopefuls to get experience through WTV were now non-existent.
We're losing not just a great asset, but we're losing a very important training ground for new talents to coming into the media and coming into the industry, for television, for reporting, for camera work, for editing.
3, 2...
However, the station's future could have had a very different story.
We think that all of that's now just suddenly lost.
Suresh Rajan is the spokesman for the Ethnic Communities Council of WA. He says there was an opportunity for WTV to survive.
I was talking to a group of people who were prepared to put up some money to actually take over and to at least get the equipment and keep going with the operations as they stand. They were prepared to fund it to the tune of about 100,000 at the end of that week, and potentially put in a further working capital of about another 150,000.
Suresh believes WTV had a chance to reach a multicultural audience.
We're about 33% of the total population in Western Australia. And in addition, 1 in 2 is about 54% of the people are either a migrant themselves or a child of a migrant. So we're over halfway. Now, that's a viewing audience that hasn't been tapped into. There is no exclusive multicultural television, community television that exists here. This would have been a great opportunity for community TV to rebrand itself.
However, the chance to save the station was missed.
There was no response back from the board. They undertook that this would go back to the rest of the board, and nothing came of that.
No, because no one came to us with a written offer of 100,000 or less. So it's not true.
As the station closes its doors, reactions have been swift.
You know, it always creates a degree of anxiety. What's happening? Uncertainty is always something that people scratch their head about.
And there are concerns community radio could now be targeted. But there's still hope that WTV and community television can be resurrected in WA in the future.
I think there is potential for there to be. So you can have community television producing the content and let the platform be any of the other station. That's all you need.
As we head into the Easter break, the Australian Medical Association in WA is urging compassion and empathy for healthcare workers as we continue isolation and distancing measures during this long weekend. AMA WA President Dr Andrew Miller talks more about the impact of the pandemic this week.
Hi everyone, I've snuck off to the baby's room to get a bit of peace and quiet in the home isolation for Easter to make a brief update at WAMN's request. Happy to oblige and let you know where the thinking's at from the AMA perspective. Of course, really great to be going into this Easter weekend with some good news around numbers. Realise this has come at a huge cost to a lot of people, and so we're not taking this time for granted. You'll be pleased to know the training, accessing PPE, getting ready on the front line, learning lessons from the great team at Joondalup and at the other big public hospitals that have been taking care of these cases, so that we can be ready also in the private sector for dealing with COVID and other non-COVID work on behalf of the community. All of that we're really taking incredibly seriously, because we know the sacrifices the community have gone through, some more than others, doing it very tough in order to make sure that this disease doesn't do here what it's doing in other places, and to avoid that devastation and therefore get us back quicker to where we need to be as an economy, so that we can look after everyone's welfare and their healthcare needs, of course. Get along to your GP for a flu jab in the next little while, and they can also update you on your other vaccination needs if you want to talk to them about meningitis and that sort of thing. But particularly important to get the flu jab this year. Everyone over 6 months of age, and of course over 65, you need the one with the special adjuvant in it, which is stronger. And in terms of masks and so on, some green shoots around there. Happily, we're distributing our first lot from the Minderoo Foundation to the non-hospital sector out of the AMA next week, and feeling a lot of confidence rising in the community as a result. Regions, always still a worry what's going on out there in Kalgoorlie, in the vulnerable areas, how we're going to get really sick patients out of there, how we're going to look after the healthcare workforce, which is in short supply. So we'll be paying a lot of attention to the regions, and part of buying this time is really looking after those big parts of our state that don't have the luxury of several really big teaching hospitals all within a few kilometres of each other. So we're thinking of you all, spread out right across this wide state. There seems to be a lot of focus on chocolate eggs and hot cross buns, as there should be at this time of the year. The thing is, I hope you're celebrating it safely and enjoying the feeling of satisfaction that I think the whole community is getting, that we can actually beat this thing in a civilised way, that we can cope with it if we keep the case numbers well under control, and that we can start having a smart conversation about how we can sneak around behind this virus's back and look after the most vulnerable in our community and start to rebuild some of that economy if we've got enough testing. We've got the confidence of the testing out there, so we know exactly where the enemy is at any given time, and we can look after all of those people really well because we don't have an overloaded health system. Then you can start to see how the strategy might unfold from here. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Just enjoy the Easter, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for your time.
And that's all for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll be back at the same time next week, but until then, it's back to you, Ivan and Sarah.
Thank you, Nelson. This week's main news again. Young people in Western Australia are doing it tough in the wake of the coronavirus crisis, struggling after being left out in the cold by support measures and lockdown restrictions. Some are in dire straits after missing out on financial help, but stories have emerged on rising domestic violence while in isolation.
And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website and social media pages.
Until next Sunday evening, look after yourself, stay at home and have a pleasant evening.
Take care.